Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whenever you're tuning in. Welcome to Cup of Cocoa and Chat. Whether you're driving, getting your work out in, out running errands, or just cozying up with your favorite beverage, I am so glad you're here. I am Princess, your host, and this is a space where we sip, share, and move through life with intention, no matter where we are. So take a breath, settle in with me. This week's May 4th through May 8th theme for Cup of Cocoa and Chat is reset and realignment, getting back to you. Today is Monday, May 4th, and this is episode number 44. Today's episode title is when you when you've lost yourself a little, how do you find your way back? When you've lost yourself a little, how do you find your way back? This topic came to me because so many people look okay on the outside, but quietly feel disconnected. They're functioning, they're handling responsibilities, they're showing up, but inwardly, something feels off. Okay? So today, our core talking points are number one, signs you may be disconnected from yourself. Signs you may be disconnected from yourself. Number two, how survival mode steals joy. Number three, why it's okay to start over emotionally. Number four, small ways to reconnect with yourself this week. And five, my all time favorites, grace over guilt. Grace over guilt. So if life has felt loud, heavy, or like you've been pouring into everything except yourself, this one is for you. So grab your cocoa, your coffee, tea, or whatever you're sipping or not, because today we're getting into something real and relatable. Okay? So the question for the day is, what happens when life pulls you so many ways that you lose touch with yourself? Let's talk about it. Okay? Let's talk about it. We're going to dive into the first core talking point, signs you may be disconnected from yourself. Now, sometimes when people hear the phrase lost yourself, they think it has to look dramatic, like falling apart, breaking down, crying every day. But the truth is, sometimes disconnection is quiet. Sometimes it shows up in subtle ways that are easy to overlook. Okay? It may look like this. You wake up tired even after sleep. You go through your day doing what needs to be done, but you don't feel connected to any of it. Okay? You don't feel connected to any of it. You're functioning, but you're not fulfilled, right? You're functioning, but you're not fulfilled. You're present, but not fully present. Okay? You're moving, but not feeling moved. Have you ever felt any of those things? Let me pause right here because a lot of people mistake functioning for flourishing. Just because you're getting things done doesn't mean you're doing well. Okay? So that's where that difference is. So you may have felt like you were flourishing, but you were only functioning because that's just what we do, right? We just function. More signs can be nothing excites you lately, things you used to enjoy don't hit the same, music doesn't move you like it used to, you haven't laughed deeply. You haven't laughed deeply in a while. You keep saying, I'm just tired. And maybe you are tired, but maybe there's more to it. Okay? Because this can happen to a person who is always dependable, the one everyone calls, the one who keeps the house together, the one who shows up for work, handles family matters, solves problems. But sometimes strong people disconnect quietly because everybody benefits from their strength. And that kind of disconnection is common. It's very common, especially when you've been carrying a lot. Okay? So, have you ever been so busy taking care of life that you stopped checking in with yourself? Have you ever asked everybody else what they needed but forgot to ask yourself? Now, does those two questions, do they resonate with you? Are they giving you pause to think? Maybe that's you. Because sometimes this connection doesn't scream and it isn't always visible, but it whispers through exhaustion. And then one day you start to realize, I don't even know what I need anymore. And that happens more than people are willing to admit. And for many people, that feeling doesn't come out of nowhere. It doesn't come out of nowhere. It often comes from spending so much time in survival mode. And that somewhere along the way, joy gets pushed back or get pushed aside. So let's talk about that for a second. Let's move into the second core part. the second core talking point, which is how survival mode steals joy. How survival mode steals joy. Many people have been in survival mode for so long, they don't even realize they're in it. Because survival mode can become normal when life keeps demanding something from you, such as bills need paying, people need help, whether it's on your job or in your home. Work still expects you. Family still needs you. And responsibilities do not pause. So you begin to adapt. You tell yourself, just make it through today. I'll rest later. I'll enjoy life later. I'll focus on me later. But guess what? Sometimes later turns into years before you even realize it. So this is what survival mode sounds like. That little voice you hear in your head that sometimes says, just make it through today. Just pay the bills. Pay the bills. Solve the next problem. Handle everybody else. And keep moving no matter what. Keep moving no matter what. Now let me be clear. Right? I'm going to say this for the ones in the back. Survival mode is not always bad. Okay? It's not always bad. Sometimes it helps us through grief, hard seasons, unexpected loss, financial stress, and emotional pain. So it can be necessary. But what protects you in one season can drain you if you live there too long. Okay? So let me say that again. What protected you in one season can drain you if you stay there too long. Okay? So survival can be good, but don't stay there too long. Okay? Now, how does joy get pushed aside? How does joy get pushed aside? Because when you're only surviving, creativity gets pushed aside. You stop dreaming. You stop imagining more. And you stop making space for what lights you up, what makes you smile, what makes you happy, what makes you laugh, that deep laugh. Not just laugh, but that deep laugh. Because laughter becomes rare. You smile, but don't laugh deeply. That gut-wrenching laugh. Right? Joy gets pushed aside because we feel like when we're resting, we feel guilty. Oh my God, I got to do this, I got to do that, right? Even when you sit down, your mind is still working. right? Sometimes when you lay down, your mind is still working because peace feels unfamiliar to you at this point. Stillness almost feels uncomfortable for you. And joy starts to feel optional. Like something nice have. Like something nice have to, but not necessary. Like something nice has to happen, but not something necessary. You know what I mean? Are you following me? And that's when it steals your joy. That's when it steals your joy. Now, this can look like the person who handles everything but can't remember the last time they enjoyed anything. Your vacation comes and you still can't relax. A quiet day comes and you don't know what to do with it. Compliments come and you barely know how to receive them, right? Someone gives you a compliment and the first thing you're thinking, oh, that wasn't necessary, instead of receiving it. Because you have no longer you no longer feel the need to be complimented because your joy has been taken. Because survival mode trains people to focus on pressure, not pleasure. Now, can anybody relate to always being on? Always on. You're always on go. You're always on 100, right? You're always fixing. You're always planning. You're always carrying everything. And then wondering why joy feels so far away. You were surviving so hard. And guess what? Your joy got put on layaway. It's still yours. It's just not in your hands right now. Now, the beautiful part is this. Just because joy got pushed aside doesn't mean it's gone forever. Sometimes it simply means it's time to reconnect, reset, and start over emotionally. So let's talk about why it's okay to start over emotionally. Okay? So let's move into the third core talking point, which is why it's okay to start over emotionally. Now, please understand, you are allowed to start over emotionally. Okay? Let me say that clearly for the people in the back, the front, and the everywhere in between. You're allowed to begin again. You are allowed to begin again. Because somewhere along the way, many people were taught how to survive, but not how to reset. You were taught how to keep going, but not how to heal. You were taught how to be strong, but not how often to soften. Okay? So starting over is normal in other areas. Think about it, right? Some people restart their careers, they go back to school, they launch businesses, they leave jobs that no longer fit their needs. Some people move to different cities. They want peace, they want opportunities, they want a fresh environment. Some people reinvent their health. They change their habits. They start to walk more. They start eating differently. And they're choosing wellness. And society often celebrates those changes. But when it comes to emotions, people act like you should stay the same forever. So find reinvention in your own way because you don't have to stay in survival mode forever. You deserve happiness. You deserve that deep laugh. You deserve all of the things, right? Now, quick reflection. I said that society often celebrate those changes. Restarting careers, moving to different cities, reinventing your health. Okay? So we clap for external growth, but we question internal growth. Which brings me to, why do we think emotions must stay stuck? Why do we think emotions must stay stuck? Why do people think if I've always been anxious, I must stay anxious? If I've always overgiven, I must keep overgiving. If I've always been guarded, I must remain closed. No, ma'am, no, sir, is what I say. You're allowed to change emotionally too. Okay? So let's look at what emotionally starting over can look like. Okay? It may look just it may just look like changing new boundaries. Setting those boundaries are very important. Setting a boundary is important. So if you set one, you're ahead of the game, okay? Emotion Emotional starting over can also look like learning healthier communication. Say no. You don't always have to say yes. You can say no, right? Trusting yourself again is a big one. Trusting yourself again. And resting without guilt. Resting without guilt. Here's one I struggle with: asking for help. Asking for help. Okay? Emotional starting over can also look like receiving love differently. Receiving love differently. Okay? And lastly, expecting more for yourself. Expecting more for yourself. Start looking out for yourself. You take care of everybody 360 days. Squeeze in 5 for yourself. Squeeze in 5 for yourself. If you squeeze in more, great. Awesome. Excellent. But we got to start somewhere, right? Sometimes emotional growth is quiet. It doesn't come with balloons or applause, but it matters just the same. Okay? It matters just the same. So that emotional growth can matter. Okay? Maybe you used to tolerate disrespect because you feared losing people, right? Now you value peace more than company, right? Maybe you used to say yes to everything. Now you protect your energy. Maybe you once thought being strong meant carrying it all alone. Now strength means knowing when to put something down. When to put something down or when to share something, because you don't have to bear the whole entire load. That's growth, right? That is growth. So think about emotionally starting over and what that can look like for you. Because growth often means becoming someone healthier than the version of you that had to survive everything. And hear me on this. You can begin again without asking permission or worrying about what others think of the new you. Because the people attached to the old patterns may not always celebrate your healing. But do it anyway. You deserve it. Now I ask, what part of you is ready for a new beginning? Is it your mindset? Is it your boundaries? Is it your confidence? Is it your peace? Because something in you may be ready now. And once you give yourself permission to begin again, the next question becomes, what does that look like in real life for me? Because starting over emotionally doesn't always require a dramatic move. Sometimes it begins with small steps that can help you reconnect to yourself again. And that's what it's all about, reconnecting to yourself. So let's dive into some small ways to reconnect with yourself this week. And this is moving into the fourth core talking point, which is small ways to reconnect with yourself this week. Now hear me clearly. Coming back to yourself doesn't always require a dramatic transformation. It doesn't have to be a big announcement, a major life change, a perfect plan. Sometimes healing begins quietly, subtle. Sometimes realignment begins in small ways. And sometimes the comeback starts with one honest moment. A lot of people delay healing because they think it has to be huge. But no, ma'am. Sometimes the smallest step carries the biggest power. Okay? So, let's start with something that all of us can do. Sit in silence for 10 minutes. Sit in silence for 10 minutes. No TV, no scrolling on your phone or iPad or tablet, no multitasking, just you. Because many people are constantly surrounded by noise. And sometimes when noise stops, truth shows up. You may realize what you're feeling, what you've been avoiding, what you actually need. Silence can be uncomfortable at first, but it can also be healing. Okay? Number 2, ask yourself honestly, what do I need right now? Not what everybody else needs, not what looks good online, not what you think you should need, but what you actually need. What do you need? Is it rest? Is it support? Is it space? Is it your joy? Is it direction? That question alone can start changing your life. And the answer may be very surprising to you. Number 3, revisit something you once loved. Music, walking, reading, cooking, creating, dancing, gardening. Sometimes the old you left clues, and reconnecting with joy can happen through things you once loved before life got heavy. So revisit some of those things. Now, have you ever heard an old song and suddenly felt like yourself again? That happens because joy remembers where you've been, right? It could be something someone says, something you hear on TV, something you read. Listening to music, an old song can spark those memories. All of those things can spark those memories. All right. So number 4, say no once this week. I know it's hard for some of you. Trust me, I know. But just once, no to something draining, no to something unnecessary, no to something that costs too much energy. Some people need to practice no because yes became automatic. And every healthy no makes room for a healthier yes. So protect your energy at all costs. Right? Protect your energy at all costs. Now, the 5th small way that you can reconnect with yourself this week is journal one page honestly, right? If you have a journal, that's fine. Find a notebook, find a piece of paper, but journal one page honestly. No performance, no trying to sound wise, no pretending you're fine, just truth. Write down what you feel, write what you miss, write what you need, Write what you are ready to release. Sometimes clarity comes out through the pen. Okay? So coming back to yourself, start small. And I promise you, at least one of the 5 things will give you a better view of the old you, or even introduce you to the new you. So try to do at least one of the 5 things this week. Whether it's journal 1 page honestly, say no once this week, revisit something you once learned, ask yourself honestly, and sit in silence for 10 minutes. Okay? Now, which one of these 5 do you need most this week? Is it going to be the silence for 10 minutes? The asking yourself honestly? Reconnecting with the joy? Boundaries? Or is it going to be a release for you? Your answer may tell you exactly where healing wants to begin. Now, as you begin reconnecting with yourself, please don't let guilt be the next thing that greets you. Because many people start healing, then immediately begin blaming themselves. So before we close, let's talk about grace over guilt. So that is our 5th and final core talking point, grace over guilt. Now this part is very crucial because once people begin reconnecting with themselves, sometimes that guilt tries to show up at the door. Thoughts like, why did it take me so long? Why didn't I notice sooner? Why did I let that happen? Why did I stay there? And why did I lose myself? And while those feelings may be real, they're not where healing should live. And let me say gently, just because guilt knocks doesn't mean you have to invite it in. Please don't shame yourself for drifting. You were handling life the best way you knew how at the time. You were doing what people do, trying to survive, trying to cope, trying to carry what felt heavy, trying to make it through seasons that may stretch you thin. And sometimes people survive with tools that are imperfect. But that does not make you foolish. It makes you human. Okay? Maybe it looked like this. Maybe you cope through busyness, always moving so you didn't have to feel. Maybe you numbed through distractions by scrolling, shopping, overworking, avoiding quiet. Maybe you stayed strong for too long by helping others, helping everyone, holding everything, needing no one. Maybe you laughed publicly while hurting privately. Trust me, many people know that life. And sometimes what we call weakness was really exhaustion. Sometimes what we call failure was really overwhelming or being overwhelmed. Sometimes what we call losing ourselves was really carrying too much for too long. And now you know more. You know what drains you. You know what hurts you. You know what matters. You know what peace feels like. You know where you need boundaries. Be- and I'm sorry. And now you can move differently because you know all of these things, right? Because when you know better, you do better. Not perfect, not perfectly, but intentionally, right? Because we want to live intentionally. So don't guilt yourself over old survival habits. Honor the version of you that got through it while making room for the version of you that's growing now. Be proud that you noticed that you were in survival mode because a lot of people never do. So people stay stuck for years because they never pause long enough to reflect. But you have the tools and you have done it, and that matters, right? What would change in your life if you gave yourself grace instead of blame? What would change in your life if you gave yourself grace instead of blame? Sit with that. Hold that to your chest. Think about that. What would change in your life if you gave yourself grace instead of blame? You cannot shame yourself into healing, but you can love yourself into growth. And that may be the lesson right there. Okay? So this is another reflection. I want you to sip on this. You didn't lose yourself forever. You just got distracted by survival. And through this conversation, you have now the tools to get yourself out of survival mode and to come back to yourself. So, all right, my Coco family, as we close out today's conversation, I want you to sit with this. Just because you drifted doesn't mean you're lost. Sometimes life gets loud. Sometimes responsibilities pile up. Sometimes we spend so much time surviving that we forget to check in with ourselves. And before we know it, we feel far away from who we are. But hear me clearly today. Distance is not disappearance. The real you may have been buried under stress, covered by obligations, pushed aside by seasons of survival. But you are still there, still valuable, still worthy, still capable of healing, still deserving of peace. Life may have pulled you in many directions, but you still have the power to come back home to you. So give yourself grace, not judgment, not shame, not punishment for what you didn't know then, because now you know better, so you can do better. Give yourself grace for the season you are simply doing the best you could. Give yourself grace for the times you stayed strong too long. Give yourself grace for the moments you neglected yourself while carrying everybody else. Give yourself grace because compassion helps us grow faster than criticism ever will. So take the small steps. Think about the 5 small steps I gave you, because small steps count. One honest conversation, one boundary, one journal page, one quiet moment, one deep breath, and one chance to choose yourself differently. Never underestimate the power of small beginnings. Sometimes the biggest transformations starts with one tiny shift repeated consistently. And trust that it's never too late to reconnect to the best parts of who you are. Your joy, your softness, your wisdom, your laughter, your peace. Or discover the new parts still waiting to bloom. Maybe there's a version of you ahead that's more grounded, more whole, more clear, more confident, and more free. And maybe this season is where that version begins. So as you move through this week, ask yourself, what part of me deserves to be welcomed back? Sit with that, carry that, honor that. Okay? If this episode spoke to you, share it with someone who needed it, who may need it. I'm sorry. This is Cup of Cocoa and Chat. As always, peace, blessings. I love you, and I mean it.